went off. Hi everybody, sorry about that. We lost everybody and now I'm back again. So hopefully everybody can see and hear me. We had some technical difficulties. We were using Zoom, and so this was our first time using it with trying to have me as the guest, or not the guest, but as the one in charge. So obviously I don't do as good when I'm in charge. So anyway, hopefully everybody's back, and you know, I started, and so again, today we're going to be talking about grief and loss, and I just wanted to share with everybody, you know, how last week we were in discussions about the MMIW, and you know, it was a really heavy week, and I seen so many people that tuned in and listened, especially when our men spoke. And Gene did an incredible job with the guest that he brought on last week. And you know, I was listening, and I was just crying, you know, listening to the men and how hard it is. You know, it's very rare that we see our men cry. You know, when I was growing up, my dad, you know, he told me that when he was a young boy, that his grandma, Mabel, had lost her son, and actually one of her sons shot the other son. And when that happened and they were at the funeral, old grandma told my dad, "You stand next to me. I will do the crying. Don't cry. I will do the crying for our family. You be strong, Deb." And for my dad's entire life, he was strong. And even to this day, I don't know that I've ever seen my dad cry. And yesterday, for me, it was a really hard day because I was thinking about my little sister, Dolly. And, you know, when we lost Dolly, it was really hard. It was the first death that I really, really felt. And, you know, my little sister, she was a beautiful mom. You know, even back then, I used to work with kids, and I used to, you know, I was already doing Rockin' the Res and trying, you know, to uplift and empower people. And when, I remember going to Dolly's house, and, you know, I was like, "Dolly, what do you want to be? Like, what do you want to do? Do you want to, you know, go to college? Do you want to get a job?" You know, I was like, what do you want to do, Dolly? And I remember she just looked at me and she said, "I just want to be a mom." And I was like, wow. You know, I had been trained so much to like be something or do something, or, you know, work hard and get my education and do this, you know, do all these things, you know, to, you know, conform. And when my little sister looked at me and said, "I want to be a mom," that is the most beautiful gift that she could give to her children, is to be a mom. And so yesterday, on Mother's Day, you know, I really thought about my sister, and I thought about all of the people who can't see their moms, all of the people who can't get a hug from their mom, and how hard it is when Mother's Day comes and when Father's Day comes, because we have all this hurt and pain when somebody in our family dies. And, you know, when I first started this talking about this, you know, our grief and loss, it stems from way back. You know what I mean? Like, it comes from a place of our first ancestors, when smallpox and scarlet fever, and when those diseases came to our tribes and to our places, so many people died. And you know, the grief and the pain, because there was no hospitals, the sweats wouldn't help, or nothing would help. So people would just die in like 7 days. And right now, in this day and age with COVID-19, we're experiencing a lot of that same trauma. So, you know, like Jay was saying when I interviewed Jay the other night, you know, it's trauma on trauma. And you know, what is the answer to trauma? The answer to trauma is healing. We have to heal our hearts from the hurt and the pain that is caused by grief and loss. You know, and there's different ways that grief and loss impact our people. And it might be a death from a car wreck. It might be diabetes, heart disease, suicide. It might be drugs, alcohol. It might be a loss of a job. Some of our people have been laid off. Some of our people can't work right now because of COVID-19. You know, so there's so many losses. It's not just the loss of our loved ones. It's also the loss of our jobs. It's the loss of our pets. It's the loss of all these different things that we're grieving, and that we're going through a lot of hurt and pain right now. And so that's why we bring these power hours, because we want to be able to share with you guys, you know, how we have been able to deal with grief and loss, and how we, you know, go through all the different stages of grief and loss. And, you know, when something first happens, you know, you go through this initial shock, right? It's just like, you can't believe it happened. You can't believe that this person died, or that you just lost your job, or that your pet died, or your parent died of diabetes or heart disease. So you have this shock, and it's just this big, you know, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this happened. And then as you go through this loss and this grief, as you go through it, you feel a sense of numbness, you know, that you just feel numb. Like, this isn't real. This isn't really happening. And, you know, that process of feeling that, and, you know, it's just, you know, you just don't feel anything, because you can't believe it happened, right? And then you go through denial of, you know, like, no, it didn't happen, you know. I don't believe that they're gone, you know. And right now, during this time, so many of us can't, you know, we can't even go see people in the hospital, right? You can't go to the hospital and hold their hand. You can't, you know, be with them. You know, my sister Eileen just lost her sister, you know, and all she could do was FaceTime. You know, all she could do was see her like you see me right now. And how hard is that? You know, when you can't, we need touch. We need to be able to touch each other and hold each other and pray for each other. And in this time, it's really difficult for us to be able to do that. And so I feel in my heart for all of you who are struggling with your grief and your loss, and you can't go through the process even in the way that we normally would. You know, you can't hug people. You can't, you know, touch them. And so, you know, I mean, I even have seen funerals that are happening where nobody can go to the graveside. You know, there's funerals that, you know, it's a drive-by open casket. Like, this is such an unprecedented time for our people, for our communities, in dealing with grief and dealing with loss. And, you know, so we go through all these different emotions, and, you know, we have anger, and we have fear, and we have, you know, we're just trying so hard. We have panic. You know, people are feeling a sense of panic because they don't know what to do, right? This has never happened before. And so it's just such a different time right now, and being isolated and being, you know, feeling lonely, you know, just being alone is been so hard. And, you know, so we're all going through this grief and loss together. And it's just been, you know, it's been really hard, right? And sometimes, you know, we go through this and we feel things in different ways, right? Like, we don't all feel the same way. We don't all go through our experiences the same way. And so I'm going to just show you guys, you know, at the Native Wellness Institute, you know, this is something that we use as a tool. And it's just, it shows that, you know, your experience isn't going to be textbook. You're not going to go through, you know, anger and frustration and aloneness, and it's going to be all over. Your emotions are going to be all over the place because we don't know, right? We don't know how we're going to deal with this. And so what happens is it's just all over the place. And so our experience of grief and loss is everywhere. We might feel depression one day, we might feel lonely one day, we might feel angry another day, we might have fears. You know, a lot of us are feeling fear. And sometimes we might just have an emotional outburst where we're just screaming at somebody because we don't know what to do. We don't know how to deal with it. You know, in a textbook, you know, they might show that, you know, these are the stages. Well, that's not reality, that it's going to happen like that, right? This is reality. This is the reality of what we're experiencing. It's all over the place. Our emotions are. And so what we want to talk about with this is today is what are the things we can do? How can we support each other? How can we help each other to be able to deal with our grief and our loss? And, you know, one time when we had a lot of suicides over in Inchlim, you know, it was a really hard time for so many of the young people. And so I went over there and I did this. I told them all, I said, write a letter to the person that you've lost. You know, write down everything you wanted to tell that person on a piece of paper. And just, you know, like, just say everything you wanted to say. And then what I had them do is we all held hands. And one at a time, each of those people stood with me. And they read their letters. And they said, I miss you. I wish I could have been there for you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Help me to understand. Come and visit me in my dreams. And, you know, they said all the things they wanted to say. You know, and for me, when I lost my sister, you know, I searched and searched for different ways to heal. I searched, you know, for different ways to be able to help my heart, Because one of the things that I learned early on in my healing journey is that if I don't deal with my grief and my loss and my hurt and my pain, my sexual abuse, my, everything that I've gone through, if I don't deal with it, my children will try to take it on for me. My children will try to deal with it because I'm not dealing with it. And that's something that once I learned that, once I understood that, and how that came about, how I was able to really understand that, was after my sister died. My little girl Tawaya, she was only 5 at the time when Dolly died, and so we were laying in bed, and Tawaya said, "Mom, I want to die so I can see Auntie Dolly." And I said, "No, Tawaya, you can't. You can't. You can't. You got to stay here with me and Dad. You have to, stay with us." And so she said that. So I went to this conference not long after that down in California, and it was a family constellations workshop. And the founder of Family Constellations, who is his name is Bert Hellinger, he did a constellation for me because I raised my hand in the middle of 300 people, and I asked a question about when people die in one spot on a road. Like in our town, my sister had died, and 3 other young people had died within 2 miles. And he was talking about black spots on highways where a war happened, and then wrecks continue to happen there, car wrecks, and people die there. And so he had been talking about that. And so I asked this question because my sister had died and other people. Well, what Bert did is he brought me up onto the stage. And so I picked 3 people to represent me, Tawaya, and Dolly. And and then he picked 3 other people to lay on the stage to represent the other girls that died. So I took the lady representing my sister Dolly, and you just place them on a stage where you feel in your heart they should be placed. And so I placed my sister Dolly, and then I placed my daughter behind her and me behind, and they were all in a row looking down at these 3. And my sister started to go down and lay next to those girls, and my daughter started to go too. And then I grabbed her and I was holding her back. And then he moved my daughter from in front of me behind me. And I looked at my little sister, and my little sister looked at me. And I just started crying, or the woman started crying. And then he closed her eyes and he turned her head away. And what he told me was, I wasn't dealing with my grief. And so my daughter was willing to deal with it for me. And on that day, I really felt like he saved my life and my daughter's life. And I realized I have to deal with my hurt and pain. I have to deal with my grief. And so that was one way that I did that. And there's different ways that we can deal with our grief and our pain and our hurt. And that's what healing is. Healing is dealing with your hurt and pain. Healing is tears. Healing is smudging and praying. Healing is being able to talk to somebody, reaching out to somebody, and not feeling like you're alone. When you feel alone, reach out to somebody. Call them, text them, FaceTime them. That's how we are going to be able to help to deal with our grief and pain is to do that. Go to the water. You know, the water is so healing. Water is so amazing, you know. And I think what was so amazing too, you know, in looking at grief and loss is that, you know, I go to the mountains, I go to the water, and that's where I went yesterday, because I was feeling it in my heart. My heart felt heavy, you know, thinking about Mariah and Andrew and Leighton. You know, Mariah was 9 months old when Dolly died, and so her entire life, she hasn't had her mom to hug her. And so yesterday when I felt that in my heart, I wanted to sing the song that Creator gave to me. And He gave me that song to help people feel and know. Because in the song it says, when you see that light shining, just remember you're not alone. You will see our people waiting there on the other side. And you know, when our people pass away, so many times I've heard so many stories that they're waiting, our ancestors are waiting to take them across. And it's the most beautiful thing. And when my grandma was dying of lung cancer, you know, I would sit by her and talk to her. You know, she had oxygen, and one time she was like, hey, she said, you know who was just here? And I said, who, Gram? And she said, my mom and dad. I got to talk to my mom and dad. My mom and dad were here. And I said, really? And she said, yeah. And Graham said, and I said, well, what did they say? What did they want? And she said, oh, they were just checking on me. They just wanted to see if I was ready to go. And I told them I'm not ready yet to come back another time. I want to stay for a while, you know. And it was like towards the end of my grandma's life, and you know, and I remember, you know, that she also had seen my little brother, little man, who had passed away when he was a baby. And I just want to say hi to Jeremy Howard, because I know, you know, he suffered a lot of grief and loss, and losing Krista. And so, you know, and I've been with Jeremy too, to try to help him with his hurt and with his pain, you know. But my grandma, she said she's seen my little brother, little man, and he got off the bus. He was on the bus. He died when he was 1, and Graham said he got off the bus, and I was like, oh, well, he grew up on the other side. And Graham said, yeah, and then, you know, we were all standing in the room with my grandma, and when she took her last breath, I felt her rise up and turn around and look at us. I felt her spirit look back as we were all standing there crying. And it was beautiful, because I knew my grandma wasn't hurting no more. I knew my grandma's mom and dad were going to be there to help her go across to this beautiful place. And that little man was going to be there, you know, and that's what, when our people, when they cross, it's beautiful, you know, that they get to be with all of our family, and they're all there to meet them. And I've been there several times when Auntie Sis died, and, you know, I felt Auntie Sis leave. And it was interesting, because when my grandma died over in Spokane at my yayat's house, my nephew Brian, he actually seen my grandma walk in, and my yaya had an altar, and she had all the people who died on her altar. And you know, the little things we get when there's a funeral, like you would see everybody who died that my yaya went to their funerals. And so she had an altar, and my nephew Brian, he seen my grandma, and she walked in and she stood and looked at the altar, and she knew that one day my yaya would put her picture on that altar. And it was it was so, it made me feel so good to know that Grandma went to my aunt's and visited her before she went on. And, I think, today I also wanted to just talk a little bit about, my fear. Because one of my biggest fears is to lose my mom and dad. And if any of you know me, this morning I called my dad and I said, Dad, I'm going to be doing my power hour today. Can you pray for me? And, he says, well, it'll cost you. Because my dad, he's always trying to get money to go to bingo. But, my dad and my mom, they've always been my support and my love. And, they're the ones who are our rock. And so one of my biggest fears has been to lose my mom and dad. And, but what was really interesting and what happened in my life was, I came across this book called Dying to Be Me by Anita Moorjani. And Anita Moorjani is, this India Indian. So she's a real India Indian. She's, so many people, are you an Indian Indian or a we always get mistaken for the India Indians, but where, but Anita anyway, I came across her book and I was cleaning out my apartment. And in one day, I listened to her entire book. It was 6 hours on audiobooks. And I'd been trying to do an audiobook and Bobby was trying to help me. And I figured it out and I listened to her book. And what I got out of her book was so amazing. And, because I had this fear of losing my mom and dad. And when I was listening to when she crossed over, because she had cancer, and she was like at the last stages, her liver was shutting down, all of her organs were shutting down, and she talks about how she left her body. And she's like, she actually sees her brother flying to go see her. And he's in an airplane and she's like, brother, what's wrong? What? I'm okay. And anyway, so she goes up and she crosses over and her dad is there to meet her. And her dad had crossed like 10 years before that. And she said she felt the most unconditional love. So much love, the most love she's ever felt in her life. And it just surrounded her and just wrapped her. And her dad, in the way she talks about him, like he was kind of like my dad. He was kind of mean and strict and, our dad was like that a lot when we were growing up. And, but, he would kill us if we got pregnant. That's what he used to tell us. And, but anyway, so, but he still loves us. It's just an army veteran way of loving you, I guess. But anyway, so Anita Moorjani, like she just has she's just wrapped around and felt all this love from her dad. And it was unconditional love. And her other friend was there who had died of cancer. And she could just feel unconditional love. And she said, well, her dad said, and he showed her like all around and it was beautiful and it was amazing. And she was just like, gosh, I don't want to leave because she didn't hurt. She didn't feel the pain from the cancer. And he says, Anita, you're going to have to go back or stay with us. You have to choose now. I can't take you any further. And she said, but Dad, why would I go back to my body? It's hurt. And it's I don't want to go back to my body. And he said, but you have the ability to heal yourself. You just have to love yourself. You have the ability to heal yourself through love. One of the hardest things that we have to learn in our lives is to say, I love you. You're beautiful. You're amazing. You're awesome. We spend our whole lives sometimes and we hurt. But we just have to learn to love ourselves. And so Anita, she said, okay, Dad, I'm going to go back. And she went back into her body. And she woke up. And even though she had legions on her body, really big ones, that the cancer was everywhere in her body, she started healing immediately. Within like 7 days, they couldn't even find the cancer in her body. They took, they tested and they took it from in her, inside of her bones, and they couldn't find the cancer. It was gone. And it was just like she had a miraculous healing. And what I want you guys to know is we all have that ability. We all have the ability to heal ourselves. It's so amazing that we can heal ourselves. And we start by just saying, I love you. I love you, LoVina. You're worthy. You're beautiful. And that's the power of love. Love is healing. Love is the key to releasing your highest potential. And so after I read that book or listened to that book, our Native Wellness Institute, we all went to Hawaii, or not Hawaii, we went to Australia for healing our spirits worldwide. And as I was like on this 13-hour plane ride to Australia, I was listening, or I watched, because you can watch movies. So I watched Avatar. And Avatar to me is like kind of like Dances with Wolves. Like, it shows the connection between us and Mother Earth and how we're connected to all living things. And it's cool in Avatar because they take their hair, right? Which our hair is powerful. Our hair is so powerful, right? But they take that and they connect it to the animals. So you see visually how we're connected, right? We know we're connected by our hearts, but you visually see it, and then it shows them connecting to Mother Earth. And that's like grounding, like when we ground, right? When you go out. This morning I went outside and I put my feet on the ground and I grounded. And I asked Mother Earth to heal me. I asked Mother Earth to speak to me today, to speak through me, to help me, to be able to share with my brothers and sisters. I asked Father Sky to help me. So Avatar really, I really felt like that was a visual connection to what Anita said about how we're connected. So we go to Australia and we go to the rainforest and it's so awesome, and it's the most beautiful rainforest, right? And so we're just like, wow, and we're walking through and we come to this tree in this rainforest in Australia, and it is the most beautiful tree. And it has all these different roots coming down in every direction. And I looked up and it had these little pods, right? Like on Avatar, like the mother tree. And I was like, you guys, this is like Avatar. And Robert is like, whatever, LoVina. Everybody just blows me off sometimes because I'm like all over the place. But I was just like, in my little mind, I was like, wow, it's Avatar. It's the tree from Avatar. Anyway, so then we go up into this really cool gondola, and we go up into the gondola, and we get off and we walk out, and it's the most beautiful waterfall. Like, if you've ever been to a waterfall, these waterfalls were so gorgeous. And I was like, gosh, that reminds me of Avatar. And so we walk up to get on the gondola, and right there Okay, right there where we're getting on the gondola, it says, the director of Avatar got his inspiration from this rainforest. And I was like, what? And I was like, yeah, I told you guys. I even have a picture of it. But anyway, so I was just so excited because I was like, you know how sometimes in your life, like things happen and it's like, that's a confirmation. That's a confirmation that yes, I'm where I'm supposed to be. Right now, today, I am in a rainforest in Australia, and this is where I was meant to be. And you feel that, right? And I felt it at that moment. I was like, yes, I'm where I'm supposed to be. But you know what was even more awesome about it? Was that I felt in my spirit something shift. Like I felt a shift in my spirit. And I realized that I am okay with my mom and dad when they die, when they cross over. I know that the day that my mom and dad have to go meet our Creator, that I'm going to be okay. Because they're going to be with me even more. They're going to be able to be with me all the time. I feel like they are like that now. But even when they're over and when they cross over, and I just want people to realize that they're still with you. They still are here. They still love you. They're trying to help you, and they try to put little signs in your life so that you can know that they're okay. And they're with our people. And they want you to live your best life. They want you to live life that we were all created for a purpose. We were all created to find our best self. And we have to heal, and we have to release all that negative energy. We have to let it go, and we have to let it go, and we have to be able to say, this is who I am. And I'm awesome, and I'm amazing, and I am going to give back to my people. I am going to love them unconditionally, even when they don't love me, even when they don't want me to succeed, even when they don't want me to be my best. I'm going to love them through it. You know, that's what we have to do. We have to stop hurting each other. You know, right now it's politics, it's people, tribal councils are, people are running for council, and I see people, talking about leaders who are veterans, who have served their people not only in war, but who have served their people on tribal council. And people are attacking them. People are attacking each other, and they're hurting. They're trying. They say they're traditional, and they say they live this walk of doing all these things that are traditional, like singing and baskets and all the traditional things. But then they turn around and then they pull each other down, and they pull down each other, and that's not love. We're only hurting ourselves. We're allowing the hurt and pain that was brought onto us, we're doing it to each other, and we have to stop. We have to uplift each other. I left my job, with our tribe, and I've been a consultant now with the Native Wellness Institute. And every time I'm with Jolene and Robert and Theta and Charlie and Shailene, every time I'm with Jean, I am uplifted. I laugh. I feel like my best me. And we have to, during this time, we have to uplift each other. We have to send love to each other, send hope and faith and goodness, and we have to give all that we can to one another in a good way. you know, and we have to take care of ourselves. You know, when we need to cry, cry. When we need to pray, pray, you know. But sometimes, you know, like, I get super frustrated and I want to I get, you know, like, I get a short temper sometimes, especially trying to be a teacher. I'm not a very good teacher, you know, like I can do this, like, I can teach, but when it's my own personality, like unity is my personality, I struggle. And I have to be like, okay, I need to take 10 minutes. I need to breathe because, you know, this is, you know, I'm an outgoing person. I'm used to being, you know, with people and talking to people and helping people. The other day, I curled up in a little ball and I was crying and I told my husband, I just don't feel like I have my purpose. Like, you know, what am I want to, like, I just struggled. And we all do, and that's okay. We have moments, right? We have moments where we struggle, but the main thing is that we dust ourselves off, we cry, which I cry all the time. I mean, I'm just like a big baby. And but my tears are healing for me, and that's why I think I cry so much, because, you know, it's healing. And so, but we just have to dust ourselves off. I love you, Jeremy. I see you. And you know, dust ourselves off and say, I'm gonna be okay. We're gonna be okay. We're gonna get through this, right? That's what we have to do. And, you know, I mean, you know, I remember I stood with Jeremy and we stood at the water and we prayed and we sang and we did everything we could to help. You know, and that's what life is about. It's about helping each other. And I just pray and I hope that today helped you, you know, because I really felt a big shift. Me and Wade. I mean, my brother Wade and I are very similar in the fact that, you know, when we both read Anita Morjani's book, we really felt a shift that we just need to, you know, everything's that we're going to be okay, and we just need to love each other, you know, and that's what we wanted to, you know, just share with people. And but Native Wellness Institute is all about love. You know, if I had to box us up into one word, like sometimes when we do our check-ins, you know, we ask our participants in our trainings, we say just one word about how you're feeling. One word. And today, my one word is love. If I leave you with anything today, it's to love yourself, to hug yourself, to know that everything's gonna be okay. And I love you, Bobby. You know, we're gonna be okay. We're gonna get through this. And it's gonna be the most beautiful rainbow when it's over and done with. You know, I always tease Jolene, you know, because I know this might be way off topic, but, you know, but I always tease Jolene about writing a book called 50 Shades of Rainbow. You know, and just talking about love, you know, because, you know, we all want love. We all want to be loved, right? Love is like the butterflies in your stomach, you know? I mean, love is beautiful. And so you guys are so beautiful. And I'm so excited that the Native Wellness Institute is going to be going online, and we're going to be offering virtual trainings so that you guys, and and maybe there's a reason and a purpose for this pandemic, because, you know, now we're going to have the opportunity to go worldwide with our trainings. We are going to be able to share with the world about love and healing and trauma and just everything that is going to help our people elevate. And so the last thing I'm going to leave you guys with before I go, the last thing I want to say is have hope. You know, a long time ago, I went to a Christian conference with my friends, Twyla and Kanita and Punky, our Stephanie, and Brian Nissen. Like, we all went to this big conference in Hawaii, and we started a group, and we called it Hope. And it's helping our people elevate. So whenever you think about having hope, think about helping our people elevate. You know, and I know, like, Sophie, I seen you post the other day, and your post and your words were so beautiful about uplifting each other. That we need to uplift each other and give each other hope, right? So I just want to say, Limlemsh and Chaspa'us Talichast, thank you from my heart for joining today. And thank you to the Native Wellness Institute for always coming through. You know, I love our organization. I love our people. Limlimsh and Chaspa'us Talichast. Thank you.